Good afternoon. I'd like to call the Hillsborough County Tourist Development Council meeting to order. We have a quorum. The first thing on the agenda is the minutes from the May 9th, 2019 meeting. I hope you had an opportunity to review those. If so, may I have a motion to approve those? I have a motion and a second to approve the May 19, 2019 minutes. Any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, let them know by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, likewise. Motion is adopted. Public comment. Do we have anyone to make a public comment? Mr. Constantino, how are you?
Thank you, Commissioner, gentlemen. My name is Neil Cosentino.
You have to talk in the mic, Mr. Constantino.
Just passing. I'll be talking about Visit Veterans World. It's a new project. My last project was
Mr. Constantino, I need you to talk in the microphone. We're taking minutes.
Okay. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Can you believe this guy for Air Force Power?
Okay. Visit Veterans World. The last time, I'm in a think tank. My name is Neil Cosentino, 708 South Davis Boulevard. Retired here in 1978. Best move I ever made. And during that time, we've done a lot of things. I joined a think tank, and I'm the veteran in the think tank. And they asked me to help veterans. But before that, just a little background. Our think tank worked on tourism before. I flew in the Bahamas. I had an air service in the Bahamas. If you ever been to Treasure Key, beautiful place, used to live there. Flew airplanes out of there. But in any case, when I came here, I got involved in getting our city in our Florida for the first time in the Olympic bid. Remember that? We were in the bid, first time. That was a good thing. So that was the last time our think tank got involved in tourism. This is the next mission, tourism mission for our think tank. It's called Visit Veterans World. And I just thought I'd introduce it today. It's a very simple idea. It's saying there are 45 million people in the military community, and guess what? They all take a vacation. And guess what? We want them to come here for their vacation. And so you say, well, how big is Veterans World? Well, Disney World is 35 square miles. They own everything. Our Veterans World is a lot bigger than that because we don't own anything. We want to be tour packagers. We want to be in the tour business. So we're looking for someone in Hillsborough County that's in that space. And then we will work with them, and they will package tours that not only are in Hillsborough County only, or they'll be packaging tours for Southwest Florida, which is Visit Veterans World, the boundary. And they'll also be packaging tours, which I like. It's called a la carte vacations. So if you have 15 counties, and everything that goes on in all 15 counties, 365 days of the year, which is a lot of stuff, all that will be offered to 45 million people and their neighbors around the world, but mostly in the United States, obviously. And they'll come here, and hopefully a lot will retire in our community. That's a good thing. Why is it a good thing to reach out to that community so they retire here? Real simple. First of all, they're retired. They have money. They're well established. But even more important from the economic development side, they come to us with knowledge that no one else has in IT, in the military, and so forth. So with that, I'll be back again. I'll start sharing some of the information. Hopefully, we run a wonderful tourism operation here as it is. Visit Tampa Bay.
You have 30
but
seconds.
We only sell.
You have 30 seconds left.
Okay. We only sell what's in this county. But Visit Veterans World will sell everything in the 15 counties that are in Florida Trends, Southwest Florida. But the headquarters for Visit Veterans World is here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else from the audience wish to address the council today? Okay, thank you very much. Administrative report, Mr. Barton.
Good afternoon. I'll direct you to your agenda package in the section for administrative report. The first page in that section is our quarterly financial statement. And we went through this in detail in the last meeting, but the things that I'd like to point out as we are transitioning through the end of the third quarter, a great deal of these various expense items are either pro rata or based on invoices that are submitted. As I had mentioned in the last meeting, the Plant City Stadium and the Tampa Convention Center debt service have been retired, and so that's reflected in here, slightly off of our budget, favorable to us. The Sports Commission and the CVB are on basically a draw schedule, so there's still some dollars to expend. In the fourth quarter, the Tampa Convention Center capital project, the $2 million, they will be fully involved. I've talked with Bob McDonough, and of course Bob's going to be with us today to talk about the project and what they've been doing, but they'll be fully invoicing the full amount of the $2 million before the end of the fiscal year. They're at $1.7 million already in terms of expenditures. At the bottom, the Business Development Fund, you may see is still a little bit low, but we tend to back in that payment with CVB because we want to just collect the business incentive packages at one time, and so we tend to back in our payment on that. So that is usually right at 500 or just a little below each year. And then lastly, at the very bottom, under distributions of reserves, just a heads up on the Tampa Bay Super Bowl host committee $1 million. We're gonna carry that over to next fiscal year. I've talked with Rob, and we both feel he's going to be in a better position to invoice appropriately at the beginning of the fiscal year, so it's not going to be but a month or two difference. But we're going to carry that reserve over to next year's budget. Still be consistent with the request for the funding. That would be appreciated if we could do that. In fact, if you want to, we deal with that now.
I'm sorry.
It'd be helpful if we had a board approval to move that reserve amount to next fiscal year.
Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion to second to remove the reserve to next year's account. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Motion is adopted.
Thank you. We'll be incorporating that into the county budget. The next page is the chart that shows you collections. Again, since our last meeting, positive results month year to date. The last month, June, was 2.71%. We're still running at year to date at 2.62%. Santiago will probably remind us, but I think we actually got the July number in, and I believe it was around 3.2. So we're still tracking very favorably. Another great year. And behind that is just a graph that shows you the same thing on collections. So, and then what I'd like you to do is, if I could, I'd like to give you an update on the conversation with the Board of County Commission related to the 6 cent, unless you have any questions about the revenue collections. So behind that is a package associated with the conversation that we had with the Board of County Commission yesterday on the 6 cent. If you recall, the board had already moved forward with the ordinance that enacted the 1%, or what we call the 6 cent tax, and that has been moving forward. We've been coordinating with the tax collector and the state Department of Revenue. That'll actually just start being collected this month. So we'll get 1 month of this fiscal year of collections and a full 12 month of collections associated with next year. So the tax is in place. The conversation that we had with the board yesterday was over a plan associated with how to spend those funds. as directed by the board. And so we had a proposal which you see in your package. And I'd like to go through that with you. And of course, the chairman can give any comments as well related to the conversation. But we had a very good conversation with the board yesterday about that. You can see actually in the motion, this was a revised version, but the board approved 30% of the net proceeds of the 6 cent to be dedicated to Visit Tampa Bay for purposes of destination marketing. So one of the things that this body had advocated for was a definitive percentage of the 6 cent to be used for destination marketing, and specifically designates Visit Tampa Bay. So that's the first component of what we recommended to the board, and they approved. The second was that and I'd mentioned this to you in the last meeting, we recommended to the board that we move the $2 million a year in capital improvements to the convention center that we match with the city. We requested that be moved from the 3 cent to the 6 cent, and the board approved that as well. So the contract's still in place. It's a 4-year agreement, but the board agreed to put the funding for that contract commitment in the 6 cent. The third area that we proposed to the board was a visitor and tourism-based capital and infrastructure initiative. What that is, in concept form, we still have to refine that. Currently, my best analogy is that currently we have a capital program for what we call the Seminole Gaming Institutions. And so that's the Straz, it's the aquarium, it's Mosey, it's the zoo. The Tampa Theater is also part of that equation. And what we proposed is that a portion of the 6 cent be used for capital initiatives for those institutions. Again, the nexus being that these are still attractions in our community. You know, we can discuss the merit of how much are directly driving room nights versus supportive to the tourism economy, but we still think that there's a nexus to the tourist development tax. That program would require, and what we proposed to the board was a match as well. So it'd have to be just like we did for Plant City on a 1-to-1, and just like we do with the city of Tampa on the convention center 1-to-1. And that would be for capital improvements to those venues not operating and not programmatic. What that has been in the past when we've used general fund funding for that is in the range of about $300,000 for each institution. So it's not one lump sum to one entity. It's been, as I said, with a match, and it's been allocated among the various entities. So we can spend some time, I think, in the next meeting talking about how we'd like to administer that program, whether we want to do any tweaks to that program. But in short, we had a good day with the board yesterday. We've got clarity. Well, on our agenda item, we had a good day. So I think with that, and I've given you the background, so there's a lot more narrative about what we proposed to the board. But basically 3 buckets to deal with the net proceeds: 30% to Visit Tampa Bay, the $2 million a year for 4 years to the convention center, and then the remainder, which is around $2.4 million for this tourism-based capital program. I think I'll stop there and answer any questions you have about the financial report, as well as the conversation and the action by the board on the 6 cent.
Any questions? Any questions? Okay. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Thank you for your leadership in bringing this forward to your board. We all truly appreciate it.
Oh, you're quite welcome, sir.
Thank you.
My pleasure. I had the opportunity to work with Visit Tampa Bay, and for the budget that they have, they do astronomical work. I can't imagine if they had an Orlando budget, what we'll be doing. But to do what they do and the staff he has over there is just beyond reproach, and so it was a pleasure for me to do that. Mr. Marsh.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to join Mr. Bartholomew in saying thank you, and to the staff as well. You know, so many of us have been here in the trench for a while, and to see the leadership that you offered and the support staff provided in terms of helping to explain what the big picture really looks like was gratifying. And I know the couple of conversations I've had between yesterday and today from hoteliers who have heard about the passage are appreciative, and it just signals to their owners and their leadership teams that there is a team at work, and this body has tried to set a table. And again, I just want to join Mr. Bartholomew in saying thank you to you and to Ron and Rosemary and the rest of the staff for your guiding this piece to where we are today.
Well, it was a team effort. You all had a lot to do with it also. So I want to thank you for standing there with us and getting this done. I just happened to carry the water. That was it.
Mr. Chairman, that's my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Kurata. Spent a lot of time with this guy recently. I don't know what's going on there.
So, good afternoon, and I too have to go on the record to thank everyone for their just incredible support, starting with our hotel industry that took a stand on a percentage for tourism marketing, to Chairman Miller, who wanted it to get on the agenda, like Mayor Castor gets out there and bids on things and gets his shoes dirty. And I can say that after Gulfport, Mississippi, that we got our boots really, really dirty for a number of days. But it wasn't just about carrying the water, really, because there were a lot of conversations that I know have to take place to get us to that point. And then to Ron and the staff, you know, soliciting the input, listening, having lots of conversations with the industry about the right things to do. I can't tell you how thrilled our team is to be able to employ some additional dollars to do what we know we can do and to fulfill even a higher potential. So thank you to everyone that's responsible for helping us to get some additional dollars to put to work. And I'd like to start off by saying SOS, and I don't mean help, I mean same old song. I wish I was up here. See if we can. Telling a different story, but the story is another incredible quarter, just incredible success. The numbers right now up on the board are Smith Travel Research numbers, so they are probably a little bit different than the numbers that Ron presented in his report. These are Hillsborough County-wide numbers, as you can see there. Occupancy at over 74% and 3.9% growth as far as revenue as calculated by Smith's Travel Research for the third quarter. So third quarter compared to third quarter. Always like to present, and these are April, May, June Smith Travel Research actual numbers. When we get into the tax, it's a little bit different because they're a month different, so I'll get there shortly. If you look at the downtown performance, 77.3% occupancy, and increase in revenue of 5.7%. Nice, healthy RevPAR there. East Tampa, solid 75.2% occupancy, and their jump at 2.1%. Where we've been keeping the eye on the ball is up in the North Tampa Bush area. Again, we've got some theories on why the numbers look like they do. There's some additional properties out there that are not reporting Smith Travel Research numbers that are collecting revenue and are impacting occupancy, which isn't being reported. but we're also looking at how that area performs during the summer. We certainly are driving visitation to Busch Gardens in the northern part of our county, and then West Shore sitting there at almost 78% occupancy with a healthy jump in revenue of almost 5%. So overall, great quarter three compared to quarter three of last year. Then when we look at taxable revenue, which Smith Travel Research also provides us with, you can see for March, April, May, which become our April, May, June numbers, you see the jump there. Obviously, the taxes collected in the prior month and then reported in the subsequent month, and that's why you have that lag. And I can tell you that July will be very impressive. The Smith Travel Research numbers that we have seen for July indicate an over 10% growth in revenue July versus July. And I can tell you big groups matter. Having the Church of God in Christ over July 4 weekend and driving hotel revenues almost 34% for that first week in July really helped to level the rest of July. And so final numbers for July we haven't seen, but the weeklies that we have been following show over a 10% growth in revenues for July. And that will become our August month. So we're very, very excited to see those numbers come in. If you're looking at county bed tax collections for that third period, we're talking about the full 5%. You're almost at $10.5 million. Remember, we like hitting 30 million in a year. I can tell you we're at 29 million and change with 2 months left to go in the fiscal year. So it's incredible. 6 months into the calendar year, we're at over 400 million in taxable revenue, and 600 is the benchmark with 6 months to go. So just a phenomenal year. Here you see this year-to-date fiscal year compared to priors, and you see the differential there as far as taxable revenue. See that we're at over 550 million, still with 2 months to go in the fiscal. So 600 million will not be a problem, and you see bed tax collections there through this time compared to prior years there as well. Convention sales goals, they have one of the largest goals this year, over 500,000 room nights. Right now they're at 411, so they've got a little bit of work to do to hit that goal this year. I'm hearing it's going to be a photo finish, so we'll keep an eye on that. And then earned media, corporate exposure, you see there the numbers are phenomenal. We always have a lot of information of that if you like. Patrick Harrison, our Chief Marketing Officer, is there. And then this is something we're very, very proud of. We get out there and raise private revenues. And we're looking 6 months ended June 30th at almost $1.7 million. And, you know, for us, a good year is about 2 million, a little over 2 million. So we're very, very excited about the private revenue, and that's all private dollars that we bring in through the door, be they co-op marketing on top of the co-op marketing we do with the funding here, visitor center sales, fundraising events. Those are all captured in private revenue, corporate sponsorships as well. And then partner information, you see there 30 new partners in quarter three. We've continued to host lots of folks in market as well as out of market, and I'll have some visuals there. Helms Briscoe is a third-party planner that drives a lot of convention business, group business to us. We had all of their sales folks in town. We made sure to connect them with our locals and took them out to Busch Gardens to see Foreigner. I missed that one. I wish I'd have been to that one, but they had a good time out there. And then out of market, every year the country hosts the biggest trade tourism show called IPW. This year was in Anaheim. You see there an image of our booth, which is really eye-catching and very different from all the others. We took partners with hotel properties like the Current, the Florida Aquarium, Zoo Tampa, the Tampa Bay Bucks, and we hear the Tampa Bay Rays would like to join us next year. So them having a presence there, talking about ball games that tour operators can sell packages for, helps their business. And more professional sports are seeing the value of tourism and getting engaged in drawing tourists from out of the country to come and go to ball games. So it's a good partnership. We saw over 150 appointments over 3 days, and we sponsored a number of events with some of our partners. This Swiss event, we partnered with Bradenton, Pure Michigan, Alamo, Best Time RV, and American Airlines, and we hosted Swiss trade and media participants outside the hours of the show. And then we had a Brazilian reception where we partnered with Visit St. Pete Clearwater and Experience Kissimmee. And it was a disco 70s night theme, which the Brazilians loved. I think every travel writer, newspaper, camera crew wanted to come and see 70s wigs and 70s outfits, and so we were the talk of the town. And then we're extremely creative with the materials we're sending out. This is an image of a cigar box looking amenity that we send out to meeting planners with lots of information about the destination and hosting events here. This is a time of year where we start getting a lot of data back, so I'm not going to kill you with data. So these reports are voluminous, and so we've got some summary slides. H2R Market Research looks at our out-of-state marketing campaign. This year, that campaign ran from January through April, and you see the markets that we hit. We spent approximately $1 million on that campaign, $987,000. I know Patrick would want me to say less than $1 million, so I'll correct myself and say $987,000. And you see some of those are establishing new markets, continuing to grow markets, as well as exploratory markets. And here are the slides we all look for, and that's the efficiency. So 38% of the travelers heard about a Tampa Bay advertisement. That's why they came. We reached 5.3 million households. If you divide the 987,000 by those households, it cost us approximately 18 cents to reach those households, which in this ad marketing arena is very efficient when you're spending 18 cents to reach those markets. And then you see here the incremental impact as far as incremental visitation, spending, and again, the return on investment for every dollar that was invested in the campaign as far as the money that it brought in. And again, this is for this one campaign. These numbers are for the one campaign because, you know, folks will probably try to poke holes at it. It's the one campaign. And then you look again, this is a different offering of the same numbers as far as incremental visitation spending. If you want to delve into the report, Patrick would be glad to share it with you because it talks about every individual market that we hit and the data for those markets. This is a summary slides. And then what's really important is that this campaign drew 141,000 incremental room nights. And so the money was well spent to grow those room nights for us. Some advertising updates. We have the in-state recap video from our in-state campaign. Those are images captured throughout the state during our in-state marketing campaign, which we're just about to wrap up, right? We don't want to see that again. And then we're really still a strong partner with Visit Florida. We've wrapped a lot of the visitor centers in Hillsborough County, Tampa images. now we're creating kids' play areas for them. And so this is a layout of the I-75 Central Visitor Center Kids Corner. And here's kind of a mock-up of what that's going to look like with a pirate ship and treasures for the kids to find, and lots of Tampa, Hillsborough County images in the background. And so we have become a big takeover destination of those I-75 entry points. And then we like to take opportunities when they jump. This year, the Bucks are playing the Panthers in London. And so we are going to blitz London during that game with wrap taxis and double-decker buses and pub outings. And so we're going to have some time at the stadium to bring in tour and travel writers. So again, really looking forward to that opportunity. And then we've launched within the last, month and a half, 3 new travel brochures. The first has to do with our treasure collection, which is that group of hotels that are in the tourism marketing district. It's a really upscale piece on those properties. Then we have our first multicultural visitors guide, and we're having a video produced right now that goes with the multicultural guide that really highlights the diversity of Hillsborough County and the many, many special neighborhoods that you could visit in our county. And then the Visit Tampa Gay Guide, which we've worked with in the past with Visit Florida. This year we work with Creative Loafing, and Creative Loafing carried all of the cost, and we partnered with them. So just another great opportunity to partner. We've also had our economic impact report come in. This one's done by the best in the business, Tourism Economics, Oxford Economics. And I'm not going to bore you with all of this, but visitor spending is up a total of almost 60% since 2009. Our tourism sector sustains about 7.4% of all jobs and 5.9% of all wages in Hillsborough County, and contributes $811 per household in taxes. The numbers are way up. We're very proud. In 2018, 23.6 million visitors. 6 million total room nights booked in 2018, with $4.2 billion in visitor spending, almost 53,500 jobs, and incomes to our locals of $2.4 billion. And then you see there taxes that are sustained by tourism here locally, federal, state, and local taxes. And still, our bread and butter is day visitors, but that overnight visitation is growing, as well as domestic versus international. We're seeing an uptick in both domestic and international visitors. Again, we've talked about that. And this is a slide that I know Bob Morrison loves, so I will always present it. And that is the total economic impact of tourism. Lodging is not the #1 spend, as you can see from the pie chart. Our food and beverage partners are benefiting. Our retail partners are benefiting. Our recreation entertainment partners are benefiting from visitor spending in the destination. So tourists touch lots of our friends in the community. And then we always report out on our out-of-area marketing co-op programs. These were payments that went out in Q3 to our partners. That is a flow-through mechanism for us to them. You see our visitor center disbursements for the Q3. I'm sure Plant City will come in the Q4 with some expense reimbursements. And then these are the festivals and events that occurred during the quarter, or that received reimbursements through the Festivals and Events Co-op program that we also manage for the county. I have come to the end of my report. I hope it was quick. Lots of numbers. We're getting to wrap up the fiscal year, and we're getting numbers from last year's calendar year that I know are ultimately important for the justification of what we do and a rationalization of what we do. Glad to answer any questions,
Thank you
Chairman.
very much. Mr. Morrison.
Quick question, and this probably goes to not such a pleasant topic. It's the challenges facing Visit Florida. Would love for you just to kind of give a heads up as to
Yes.
what they experienced since the last legislative session, but more critically, what it means if going forward, if there's some issue, if we can't get reauthorization in next year's session.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. As some of you know, Visit Florida was reauthorized for just 1 year, which means that our legislature will take up the reauthorization, either short-term or long-term, of Visit Florida in this session. I can tell you that a lot of our international marketing efforts are supported by Visit Florida. In some cases, a 3-to-1 match, 4-to-1 match, which ensures that destinations that have smaller budgets can have a presence internationally. If you're some of the bigger destinations, you really don't need their assistance. You can afford it. I think somebody mentioned the Orlando budget as an example. And so our partnership with Visit Florida is one that's very critical to us as far as international marketing. We've done some estimates around the office on what kind of money we'd have to come up with if Visit Florida were to go away. And right now it's around a $1 million mark that we would have to decide to find somewhere to supplement the loss of Visit Florida support. To add to our anxiousness is the fact that Brand USA still has not been reauthorized either. And so we partner with Brand USA as well to market our home. And there are a couple of bills right now moving through the federal government to reauthorize Brand USA. So there are no certainties with either Brand USA or Visit Florida in our assistance. And if they're both out of the picture, and just so that you understand the layered approach, Brand USA markets to bring visitors from all over the world to the U.S. And to them, it doesn't matter where they go as long as they come in the U.S. And then Florida wants to pull those visitors to Florida. And we want those visitors to come to Hillsborough County. And so if those two layers are gone, we're it. I mean, we're the last line of defense in bringing visitors to Hillsborough County, because those partners aren't there to supplement our dollars or to do the marketing things that they do, which are very, very effective. On top of that, I think we've talked, and Lou, Mr. Placencia certainly knows, we are going to see a pretty dramatic increase in room inventory here shortly. And I often say that's more mouths that we need to try to help feed. And so, the 6 cent is very, very appropriate at this time, not really knowing the certainties of just a few months from now with a Visit Florida, a Brand USA, and new hotel rooms coming online. And so, again, we're very, very grateful that we'll have some gas for the engine, some fuel for the engine, when we're going to be faced with some uncertainty here, not in a year, not in 2 years, but here within probably the next 6 months or so.
Mr. Palencia? Push your mic.
Thank you. I have a question for you regarding, you mentioned new supply, and we've got about roughly 3,000 new rooms.
Yes, sir.
That are coming in. The JW Marriott in particular is really my question. Have you started seeing the benefits of that from a group standpoint? I know you're starting to book groups 3-5 years out. Can you give us some insight as to what you've been able to do there?
I can. In fact, every group that we talk to would like a block of rooms at the JW. And so our team, our convention sales team is having lots of conversations about future groups that are in the funnel, and even repeaters that are not saying we want some rooms in the new shiny hotel. So we are working that balance, right, between our existing properties and the new properties in this complex scheme of group room nights. As you know, we have to cobble those together here. We don't have any one large enough property that can cater to very large groups. So we cobble together blocks to get these large groups in town. Church of God in Christ is a great example. A group that stayed over many, many hotels. And so there's definitely an interest in that property, as well as some others. I mean, the Hyatt property, we're starting to get questions about when that property is coming online. Certainly some of the dual branded properties, some of the properties down in West Shore that are attracting a lot of attention. the Current, and some of these others. So the groups are very, very sophisticated. They follow this stuff. Surprising, they know, hey, when is this hotel opening up? And we'd like a block of rooms there, and can you start working with that sales team there to ensure we have rooms there? So there's definitely some demand. I could, at a future meeting, tell you the numbers already that are being considered for some of these properties.
Santiago, is the makeup of the business changing? Because my hope is that we will end up getting a lot more higher rated groups.
Yes.
And also that the makeup of that type of business is more towards corporate and higher end associations.
Well, certainly some of that will come, and some of that we're going to have to go fish for, because we don't have that reputation, right? So certainly our convention sales team is aware that some of that will come to you and say, wow, the sophisticated groups that know, but certainly we're going to have to go fishing in a different pond for some of that business that we may never have thought about being able to land. So believe me, we've been waiting for some of this type of property to land for a while.
Thank you.
And had the appetite for it.
I toured the JW recently, and it is phenomenal. I mean, it's really spectacular. And the renovation that just took place at Tampa Marriott Water Street is also just remarkable. It did a great job with both of those.
That whole area down there with the improvements at the center and out at the Sail Pavilion, and when Water Street starts to really crank up with some of these new buildings and some of these new streetscapes, there's been a lot of attention to that. But then there's been attention to Midtown, and to the Hard Rock area, with the new hotel there that makes the old hotel look like the bathhouse. I mean, when you compare the two, so there's a lot of attention to, as you know, to the market and what we're going to be able to offer as far as accommodations.
Let me say, I'm involved with 3 organizations that will be coming here within the next.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next 3 to 4 years, and I can tell you the JW played a very, very huge influence of them coming here. One of them is a repeat, 2 of them are repeats, and one is brand new. So it played a major game in that. And the one that, when Mr. Carrata talks about getting our boots dirty, he's not a CEO that sits behind the desk and not get out there. We were in Gulfport, Mississippi, and
Can't get there from here.
it rained every day. We went there for a bikers conference that we hopefully will come here, and we were in a fairgrounds. And when he said mud on the boot, it was mud on the boots, and he was there working just as hard as others. And I want to thank him and Sherry Brown, who's over as multicultural director. My wife, who's on the multicultural board, was there working, and it was a mess. But we had a good time, but hopefully we brought those 30,000 bikers will come to Tampa, and they'll be at the fairgrounds when they get here. That hotel out there will be packed.
I don't think we could even describe it, right?
No, you can't describe it.
The fairgrounds there are roughly double the size of our fairgrounds as far as acreage, and they had never held so many people at those fairgrounds. And it is a takeover of the city, of the town, of towns nearby, hotel compression, the Walmarts, the banks, the restaurants. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. You couldn't. We had to, the things we do for love, right? We had to drive an RV. If you've met my wife, she's a little itty bitty lady. She drove a 40-foot RV to Gulfport, Mississippi to park in the fairgrounds because you couldn't rent one nearby. So you had to bring one from home, and you had to literally have a headquarter at the fairgrounds. And this was, I've got pictures of her. She looks like a mad trucker, and she's about this big. And she drove this RV to Gulfport and back. Because I drive small things. I don't drive big things. So I was the one that sat as the co-pilot, like, watch the right side. You're going too fast. This thing takes time to brake. Be careful. Because I was very nervous, but she did a great job, and it was an all on board effort. I'm telling you.
We're going to bring that one here. Any other questions, Mr. Carrata? Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mr. Banana. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you for inviting me. First of all, I'd like to say, everybody here was watching Santiago. They should have been watching the mayor when the chair said, and we're going to bring 30,000 bikers to this city.
I was looking at her.
It was
She
not
rolled
the-
her eyes.
It was not the joyous expression you would expect.
Because at the fairground.
Well, again,
say that
they
these are
were
not-
not mentioning the fact that these were all veterans and kind of,
Yeah.
button-down folks.
Yeah,
She
these
had
are the
Hell's
bikers
Angels
you
in her
take
mind.
These are different kind of people, yeah.
But thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for supporting the efforts at the convention center. I think that some of the hoteliers are taking a perverse pleasure in the fact that we are learning what it's like to operate a business while you're renovating. And I know all of the hotels here have gone through that in the last year, and it's quite something. So I'm not just going to talk about the renovations. I'm going to talk about the convention center because there's a lot that's happened that you might not be aware of, and it's a good opportunity for me to bring things back up to. Bob Morrison recently had a tour, and hopefully there were supposed to be invitations sent to you for a soft opening for the Sale Plaza this evening. If you did not get them, I will make sure you get it for the grand opening because there's still a lot of touches, and I'm not sure if I want you to experience the cook's second day on the job. But 2018, 124 events, 278 event days, and that's event days. That's not including the move-in and move-outs. So 423,000 plus visitors to the convention center. I'm going to throw a bunch of numbers at you because, Santiago had a bunch of numbers, and I have number envy now after that. But the mayor has given me the directive, really, that we have to have a revenue neutral position. So I'm not being forced to make money, but I can't lose a lot of money. And that building takes about $33,000 a day to operate. And, so there's always the constant pressure with the folks bringing people in here, and everybody wants to pay less. And, on the positive note, we renewed and extended the summer business program. We have a very strong relationship with Visit Tampa Bay where we are exchanging numbers. They have access to everything. But we have some new faces. Una has been promoted, Una Garvey. She's now the Convention Center Director. We brought in a Convention Center Business and Administrative Support Manager from our budget department. And she has tightened the screws and the numbers. Again, because we need to make sure that we can make numbers that make sense. And we've done a lot of small things. I'm going to walk through that as I go along. We have a new sales and marketing manager, addition of 2 event coordinators, and we brought in a director of security. I don't have to remind you of what you've seen in the last few weeks. And this fellow is a former TPD officer who had a lot of experience and contact with the RNC convention and the Super Bowls. So it's down his alley. I've also, as long as we're talking about the police department, I know that's been one of the rubs is, it's such a balancing act. How much is too much? How much is not enough? And the bills that go along with that. And so we're working on that right now, whether we use, in some cases, a private security, or do we really need crossing guards for some of these events? So we're working on that, again, to keep the numbers as best as we can. So operational changes, we've updated the proposal format, working with Visit Tampa Bay. So we have a consistent message. And the good news is that we turn them around right away. There's no gap. They're not waiting for us to come up with our numbers, which was a complaint in the past. They have open access to Ungerbach. The hotels can get a look at what we're doing. So there's no secrets. We're all partners in this, and we need to be that way. We updated the summer business program. We talked about the church group that was just in, and I mentioned it cost us $33,000 a day to operate. There was no rent, and our share of food services for 10 days was $13,000. But, we got to suck it up once in a while to make sure that the community benefits. So that's kind of the balancing act that we're working on. We've revamped our webpage and e-marketing, again, to be more consistent with Visit Tampa Bay. We want to make sure that it's a seamless message that we deliver to our community. Operational changes, again. No more same old convention food. We basically have changed everybody within the Aramark Food Services and made them step up to the plate and hire more people. We brought down the senior management of Aramark last year and said, look, we're making all of these upgrades to the convention center. You can't operate the way that you were. We need to have your food service match what we're trying to do. And you know, one of the big things that we follow everything we're doing right now, this plan, it's not haphazard, we actually have a plan, but it's from feedback from our customers. And one of the things a lot of people said is, look, we don't have a lot of time, and we want to make sure that we have more food options in or adjacent to the convention center. So hopefully you've seen Harpoon Harry's, and that was an $8 million investment by the operator of Harpoon Harry's. We are finishing up Dats. We have Big Ray's. And if you get by there, you can taste their food. We thought it was important to give people a taste of Tampa. You know, you can get fried convention food anywhere, but you can't get Dats food. Who else serves a hamburger on a donut, right? But the Big Ray's, Four Rivers Barbecue, and we also opened up another option, which I'll show you in a minute, which is a bowl concept. Again, because the demographic is changing for the people that come to visit our conventions. And you know, not everybody wants to eat a hot dog, pizza, or French fries. And so a more wholesome concept was necessary, and it's right there. So that's one of the other things we've done. So we have a new general manager, and if you look, all of these folks have hotel experience, and big hotel experience. Matt Eaton, no, he wasn't with the government. That's obviously he went to school at a very fine culinary school, Culinary Institute of America. He worked in Bellagio. He worked in the Westin Dubai. So he also has the ability to serve a broad spectrum of food groups, which is kind of nice for some of the folks that we get in here. Jason Orchard, who's now the new GM, again, hospitality experience. Operations, Courtney Flack, hospitality and fine dining. You know, it's not just convention center folks, because you're raising the bar with the kinds of hotels that are being developed in this marketplace. We need to raise our experience as well. Because, you know, they're going to leave some of these new swell hotels and come to the convention center. It can't be the same old convention center. So we're raising the bar to match what you're doing in this marketplace. We got rid of Cushman & Wakefield, who was our custodial services. We didn't really feel like they were doing everything that they could. So we have Owens Housekeeping and Janitorial Services. Again, raising the bar. Electrical services, we outsource that to Edlin. Again, trying to keep an eye on our bottom line. We have 54 full-time employees. Virtually everybody else is contract. Again, keeping an eye on that bottom line to make us the most efficient. We're going to do what we do best. We're bringing in people for what they do best. So it complements our efforts. So working around the building, you know, one of the issues that some of our guests have had is the interaction between people and bicycles or people and scooters now. So we've added ramps to take the bikes out by the Riverwalk, so they don't necessarily have to come under the covered part of the building itself. DATS will be right inside the front door. Big Ray's, we double the size of the restrooms out there. I know, Joe, you've expressed an interest in the past about us expanding our marine experience, and that's something that we're looking into. Again, something that for the visitor as well as our locals. 15 brand new restrooms. And I never would have believed in a million years how much 15 restrooms could cost. But importantly, they're low flow fixtures. We have potty parity. Again, this was a building that was obviously designed by men and not by women. And the makeup of visitation to the conventions has changed. And so actually, our female employees worked with the architects on a lot of the layouts in the restrooms. So where the mirrors go, where we have changing rooms, hooks for purses, a lot of things that if it was left to the regular guys, they would not have figured it out. So it was something that was necessary, and that was probably the most tired part of our building, were the restrooms. The Sale Plaza, I need to get you out there. You know, again, people like being outside. One of the main attractions of our convention center is the view corridors. And so we are playing upon that. And again, you need to come out and see it because pictures really don't do it justice. On the left there, that's Nourish, and that's the bowl concept, and that's downstairs by the rotunda. Again, we've kind of built like a food bar or a food court right there. Put in a lot more seating for people, which we did not have in the past. Upstairs, we added a Starbucks. And again, that was something, feedback that we got. We have local coffee downstairs. We have Starbucks upstairs. So again, it was a space that wasn't really being used. It was the Ybor Cafe that was open 3 times a year. Where Nourish was, there was a bar, which was only open 3 or 4 times a year. What we're doing is getting the most out of every square foot that the building we have. You know, unlike most hotels, 57% of our revenue dollars are driven by food and beverage. So we have to capitalize that and do as good a job as we possibly can. Bottom right picture is one of the new concession stands. Again, we're bringing everything up to a much higher standard. Other improvements, again, with dollars that we're getting from here, low E film on windows. I meant to bring an energy audit by TECO. They suggested there were 20 things left to do, and if I did all 20 things, would save $5,000 a year. That's not a whole lot of money. We have gone from $1 million a year electric bill to about $850,000. So the low E is part of that. We converted the kitchen to gas. That saves electricity, but this also raises the bar on the quality of the food because you can prepare it sooner to the event, and so it's not sitting in hot boxes and going bad. We replaced carpet with low VOC vinyl tile. Again, air quality is something that's very important to people who come visit us. We're repainting the interior. That's a view of one of our corridors. Neutralizing it, bringing it up to what I'm seeing in the hotels right now. You know, we had a very over-the-top decorative look in the convention center, which was fine in 1985, but it doesn't play really well in 2019. So I think when you come, you're going to be happy with what you see. We added seating to the food service area. We have an area upstairs that was never really used. We're calling it the Waterfront Lounge now. It's up top and it's around the rotunda. And it's got seating, so when people want to get out of convention, they want to sell something or talk to somebody, we've got a casual seating area that they can use. The landing, up at the top of the escalators, it was an area that really hasn't been used. We use it once a year for the fan, for the when folks come to see us for Gasparilla. But you know, like we have IBEX who's saying, we're splitting at the seams, where can we put our registration? Instead of using the reg level for that, we put them on the landing. And when they're not, we can do events out there. It's got great view corridors. We put some of the big ass fans and lighting, new furniture. Again, getting the most out of what we can with the square footage. Formerly, in the building, we used to use wax on the terrazzo floors. We honed and polished them now. This saved us $100,000 a year in operating costs. We've upgraded the security doors and security cameras, again, along with getting a security director. Inside, as you walk in off of the circle there, that used to be the sales office. We took the sales folks and put them upstairs with our customer service people, where they should be anyway, and now that's a show office. So again, repurposing space, and the clients really like it, because traditionally show offices are in the back of the building or tucked somewhere. Now they have something very convenient that they can also use to entertain their clients, so it works really well. We built meeting room 10, which again is a presentation room for clients. We also use it for food tastings. You know, formerly, in which I was aghast to find out, the tastings would often happen in the kitchen. Oh my gosh, I'm surprised anybody ever bought anything. So we have a special space now to do tastings, and it's working really well, giving us a chance to upgrade. Upgraded controller for the small chiller. Again, lots of small things. I'll tell you a couple of, and maybe you could do it at your hotel. We've always had issues with deliveries because we had a single address, and now everybody's using Google Maps. So a truck driver would be using it in 333 South Franklin and go all the way to the front of the convention center. We went ahead and signed a different address to the ramp going up to for the truck delivery. We also assigned a separate address for the garage. So now when people are locating something via Google Maps, they're getting to the correct place. We also have spent money on the signage downtown. So we have an active sign on Tampa Street that will let people know if the convention center parking is full and direct them over to Fort Brooke. We've ordered new signs for Fort Brooke, which can do the same thing to directing. And as long as I'm on the subject, there's a move afoot, which I think is important that the hospitality industry knows. There's a cabal of residential developers right now who would like the city to change their parking requirements so that residential projects in certain areas, like in downtown, don't have to provide parking. Well, that's great, except for the fact when we have special events and something going on in one of the hotels or in the convention center, we can't afford to give up that parking. So if and when that comes about, I'm going to be asking the hospitality industry to voice their opinions on that, because it's an important issue about our success. We're upgrading the passenger and the freight elevator. Something that's kind of crazy, that this building was built with a single freight elevator. And if you have a problem, it's a real oopsie. So we're going to add another one. We're doing an interior signage package. Again, if you remember what our signs look like, Ringling Brothers and Barnard Bailey, it's great for 85, but not 2019. Replacing air handlers, make us more efficient and improve the air quality in the building. And we're adding meeting rooms as well. Then we have some unfunded projects which we can come and talk to you at a later date about. Chiller replacement, some carpeting replacement, air walls, and exterior door refurbishment. But that's a quick snapshot of what's going on at the convention center, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any
And
questions?
I do invite you, please, to please come and see what we're doing.
Okay.
Great report. Great
Any
report.
questions?
I got a couple questions, just real quick, because we never get a chance to get with Bob here like this.
Yeah.
This is a great opportunity. I
Usually
just,
I'm in the
on
way.
that last slide, you talked about the chiller.
Yes.
Is it possible to connect up with what Vinnick's doing with their chiller
They
and
don't
buy
have,
their,
they don't have the capacity, and the distance is too far.
too far to connect up to that?
Yep.
What is the, in terms of the, when you talked about the convention center, if it makes, you kind of want it to be cost neutral.
Right.
If it makes money, what's the policy on that? What is the bylaw, and what, if you
Well,
guys?
I'll give you an example right now. I talked about Harpoon Harry's. He spent $8 million on his facility, and we matched the TDC money. We also invested another $5 million on top of that. And Aramark invested $1.4 million in new equipment. So money is being spent on top of the monies that we're matching. So yes, we reinvest in the convention center.
So if it made $1 million, it just goes right back into the convention center, into CapEx or whatever?
It has been, yes.
Okay. You teed up for me, and I appreciate that. I was going to ask a question, my little pet peeve project, the Yacht Village. I view that as a way we could showcase Tampa, the waterfront.
Yep.
So in talking to Rob, you and I are both on the Sports Commission, I did go back to Marriott and say, look, we had a great experience with the Yacht Village for the national championship game. We want to repeat that for the Super Bowl.
Right.
And so I've pitched that to Marriott, Bonvoy. You've got an Edition, you've got a JW Marriott, you've got Little Old Epicurean, you've got, and then you've got Bonvoy. And so there is a chance that Marriott will write the check for Yacht Village for the Super Bowl in 2021. I guess I'd love to spend some time with you and go through that process of because, with the floating docks, et cetera, for behind the convention center, I do think it's a selling attribute for us, and I do think we can maximize it and actually make money off of that. Right now, I think with the boat show and the other things that we do behind the convention center, we have to pay to bring in those floating docks like we did. I think it cost us about a couple $100,000 to bring in the floating docks for the national championship. And when I'm thinking about bricks and mortar dollars, I think the number you're saying is estimated at about $2.4 million that you've got in there for possibly for Mosey and for these other things. That's one of those things to me that the payback on it is like immediately. For us to be able to go and say, look, we've got all this, and so every time we book a convention, why don't you also add this other amenity to your booking venue? We've got this whole Yacht Village thing you can do. We can bring boats in, and it's a backdrop for ESPN and blah, blah, blah. So love to be able to spend some time with you on that.
And actually I've spent time with some engineering firms about different ideas. And, but it's funny because so much in this community goes around the Gasparilla. And people are like, well, you can't block the Gasparilla ship. Well, that's like 364 other days of the year that we're managing an asset specifically about that use. And right now, it looks as if the ferry that operates in the winter months will be docking behind the convention center. again, that's kind of another photo op, I think, for the community and to show what we do. But yes, I'll be happy to talk to you about it. We just spent over $100,000 refurbishing the existing docks that we
Yeah,
have.
I think the area looks
And
great,
we
yeah.
added electric and water to the ones to the east. Yep.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, any further questions? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other discussion on any other topic, anything? Any other business? Seeing none, we adjourn.
Thank you.